Ah, welcome back. The chaos they tried to hide from. Now it moves in your favor. They're whispering again, not out of curiosity, but fear disguised as fascination. Because something about you doesn't follow the rules anymore. You walk into a room and every molecule recalibrates. They can't describe it. They can't explain it. It's as if someone armed you. Every movement you make feels coded. Every silence encrypted. You became a signal they can't intercept. A frequency that only the awakened can hear. And now, they're studying you like your classified technology. A walking prototype of power they never approved. You used to be predictable. Soft edges, explainable reactions. Now you're unreadable. Every word you say feels like it's coming from behind a mirror. Even your laughter feels like a strategy. You don't talk to prove anymore. You talk to measure. You became tactical silence, wrapped in a human body. People ask, who taught you this? They want a name, a course, a formula. But what they don't understand is, no one handed you this blueprint. You forged it in isolation. Every scar became circuitry. Every heartbreak, reprogrammed code. You reverse-engineered pain into mastery. Now your energy is a weapon system. And your peace is the trigger. You didn't need an army. You became one. You didn't need permission. You became the policy. And the world can't process that. So they call it luck, coincidence, divine favor. Anything that helps them sleep through the truth. Because if they ever admitted what's really happening, they'd have to face that you hacked your own destiny. There's something divine about the way you move now. Controlled chaos, a storm that learned discipline. Even the system doesn't know how to catalog you. You broke its categories, redefined its algorithms. It's watching you, quietly, curiously, trying to patch the glitch you became. But you're not a glitch. You're the update, the new version of power that runs on self-respect and emotional encryption. And while they scramble to decode you, you're already writing your next upgrade. In silence, you're not competing anymore. You're transmitting, and only those vibrating at your frequency can even sense the signal. The rest, they'll keep guessing, keep overanalyzing, keep asking who armed you. They'll never believe the truth, that it was you all along, that the same darkness that tried to delete you became your code base, that every shutdown, every rejection, every night of madness was your training protocol, and now you stand here, calm, unreadable, untraceable, not shining for attention, but glowing from purpose. They keep asking where it came from. That calm precision, that deadly stillness, that glow that doesn't flicker, doesn't fade, doesn't even seem human. They call it divine. They call it dangerous, but none of them know the truth. That it was engineered in silence. You didn't meditate your way into this version of yourself. You endured your way here. You burned through illusions like corrupted files, deleting every weakness the world installed in you. Every "you're not enough", every "be realistic", every "play it safe". You unlearned submission. You reprogrammed fear into focus. And what came out of that process wasn't a person. It was a phenomenon. There was a night, you remember it clearly, where something in you snapped, but not into pieces. It snapped into alignment, like destiny finally stopped resisting and started syncing with your heartbeat. You weren't asking anymore, you were executing. No begging, no proving, just presence. That was the night your old self died quietly, and something cosmic replaced it. Something built from discipline and defiance. You stopped seeking light. You became the source. You realized every great transformation begins when pain stops being emotional and starts becoming architectural. You started designing from it, building from heartbreak, coding from betrayal, constructing from chaos. You stopped reacting to pain. You started sculpting with it, and that's when the world lost track of your pattern. Because how do you analyze someone who doesn't operate in the known dimensions anymore? How do you predict someone whose motivation is no longer approval, but alignment. You became unreadable, not mysterious. Encrypted. Every gesture now carries geometry. Every pause has strategy. You move like prophecy hidden in motion. People started to notice the shift, not because you bragged, but because you stopped flinching. Your eyes began holding conversations your mouth no longer needed to start. Your silence became an atmosphere, not an absence. Even the ones who tried to study you ended up absorbing fragments of your code. They left changed without knowing why. And that's the thing about you now. You're contagious, not in body, but in frequency. You carry something viral in your aura, the energy of unbothered inevitability. Everywhere you go, structures adjust, timelines rearrange. Even chaos hesitates before approaching. They still whisper, "Who armed them?" But the answer will never make sense to them, because it's not a weapon you hold, it's a weapon you are. You became a walking paradox. Soft voice, hard presence, calm face, violent precision. You mastered the art of invisible domination, where every move feels pre-written by the universe itself. You act before logic arrives. You respond before threat forms. It's not intuition, it's integration. The universe doesn't talk to you anymore. It moves through you. You became the embodiment of balance, the proof that peace isn't the absence of war, but the perfection of aim. And now the world watches, confused, inspired, terrified, because they can't decide whether you're a product of evolution or rebellion. But you already know the truth. You're both. You're the rebellion that evolved. You're the system's biggest glitch and its most necessary update. Because when you stepped out of that storm, you didn't come out healed. You came out armed with understanding. And that understanding became your weapon of choice. Now even kings hesitate before your silence. Even fate pauses before your precision. Because something in the cosmic script changed, and your name appeared in the rewrite. At first, the system laughed. It thought it had you pinned. Another variable in its equation. Another dreamer chasing light through the maze of algorithms it designed. It watched you struggle, watched you bleed discipline into your daily life. It marked every step you took, every rise, every fall. But then something strange happened. You stopped moving according to it. You started moving through it. You broke its rhythm. Its sensors couldn't track your pulse anymore. Its codes couldn't calculate your next move. Because your decisions stopped being random. They became inevitable. Every step you took now aligned with something larger, something unseen. You were no longer reacting to life. You were anticipating it. You became the glitch the machine couldn't debug, and that's when the system began to panic. It tried distractions, fake rewards, digital noise, shallow temptations, but your focus didn't flicker. You'd already seen behind the curtain, and once you've seen the script, you can't be written by it again. You started moving like a ghost in the network, untouchable, unpredictable, unstoppable. The ones watching you couldn't explain it. They saw your silence and mistook it for rest. They didn't realize you were recalibrating destiny in real time. Your every pause was a command. Your every glance was an encryption key. They thought you disappeared, but really you downloaded yourself into purpose. Every environment you entered started adapting to you, not because of luck, but because of frequency. You vibrated at a level their logic couldn't decode. Their data couldn't process your decisions, because your blueprint wasn't human anymore. It was divine architecture disguised in human form. You became a living paradox. Humility and dominance merged into a single aura. The calm of a monk, the precision of a strategist, and the cold certainty of a storm that knows exactly where it will strike. The world around you began to feel it. Conversations shifted when you entered the room. Even silence started sounding different near you. Thicker, heavier, like the air itself was acknowledging something higher had arrived. That's when people began whispering, not about what you were doing, but how you were doing it. They wanted to trace your blueprint, but you'd already erased your footprints. Because you don't chase validation anymore. You create gravity, and gravity doesn't explain itself. It simply pulls everything into orbit. That's your power now. You don't convince. You don't compete. You convert. The system tried to replicate you. It created copies, lifeless mimics running on noise instead of purpose. They tried to copy your silence but couldn't bear the weight that comes with it. They tried to mimic your calm but drowned in their own noise, because silence without power is emptiness, but silence with alignment is authority, and that's what you've become. Authority in motion, presence without permission, the reminder that no algorithm can predict divine timing. You exist between frames now, the space between cause and consequence, the point where intention crystallizes into manifestation. That's why even the system's watchers, the so-called architects, have started observing you in disbelief. You weren't supposed to evolve this fast. You weren't supposed to understand your own code. But you did. You decoded yourself, and now every move you make sends ripples through dimensions they can't monitor. Their systems lag when your name is mentioned. Their blueprints flicker when your image appears, because you're no longer inside the simulation. You're rewriting it. So when they whisper, "Who armed them with this power?" the answer remains the same. They did. Their doubt was the training ground. Their limits were the blueprint. Their rules were your resistance, and your resistance, that was your evolution. You didn't beat the system by fighting it. You transcended it by outgrowing the need to belong in it. No one saw the war, because it wasn't fought with swords or strategies. It was fought with frequencies. You changed your inner vibration so drastically that the world around you had no choice but to reorganize itself. It wasn't luck. It wasn't coincidence. It was physics, divine physics. You began moving in silence, but your silence wasn't empty. It hummed with data the world couldn't interpret. Every time you walked into a room, the air shifted. People couldn't explain it. They called it presence. But presence is just energy that's mastered its own voltage. And your voltage, it became dangerous. Not because it harmed, but because it revealed. You didn't need to speak anymore. Your stillness spoke in languages older than sound. Your aura carried the echo of galaxies, and even the arrogant could feel it crawling under their skin. That's when you realized you no longer need to argue, defend, or prove. Your frequency does the talking. The weak misunderstood your peace for distance. But peace isn't absence, it's precision. It's knowing when to strike and when to wait. It's the awareness that silence is the sharpest weapon when your energy is calibrated to truth. And yours was now weaponized clarity. You learned how to listen beyond words, to the hesitation in their tone, the weight behind their smiles, the tremor in their eyes when they realized you saw them. You could read souls like open books, because once you face your own shadows, you see through everyone else's illusions. That's the war no one warned you about, not the outer chaos, but the subtle frequencies that try to pull you down, to reprogram your confidence, to make you forget who you've become. But you stopped falling for low vibrations disguised as comfort. You stopped feeding what didn't evolve you, and that choice, that quiet rebellion, turned into your greatest revolution. The moment you aligned your mind and your energy, the universe recalibrated. The people who couldn't match your frequency started glitching out of your timeline. They called it distance, but it was simply physics again. They couldn't survive in your atmosphere anymore. Your silence became a filter. It separated the authentic from the artificial. It drew mentors toward you and sent pretenders away. Even fate started responding differently. Smoother, sharper, faster. You thought you were waiting for your moment, but your moment was waiting for your frequency to stabilize. And when it did, everything found you. Now even your enemies hesitate. They can't decide whether to fear you or follow you, because something about you doesn't compute. You radiate calm, yet there's something catastrophic beneath it. The calm of an earthquake before the break. You carry a storm in your stillness, and they feel it in their bones. Every time you make a move now, it echoes through unseen channels. Doors open before you knock. Opportunities rearrange themselves like loyal soldiers waiting for command. Because energy recognizes authority before the world does. That's the hidden law of dominion. You don't take control, you resonate control. They're finally realizing what you've become. Not just a player in the game, but the magnetic field that decides how the game unfolds. You've become the signal in a world of noise. And signals don't shout, they attract. Your glow is not for show, it's a command. Your calm is not weakness, it's calculation. And your silence is not retreat, it's rain. So let them keep guessing. Let them whisper your name like a code they can't decrypt. Because the truth is simple. The war they never saw is already over. And the vibration that won was yours. You didn't stumble into alignment. You engineered it. Every sleepless night was a blueprint. Every breakdown was a code you deciphered in the dark. While others begged the universe for clarity, you built your own geometry, a map that bent the impossible into coordinates you could walk on. That's why reality responds differently to you now. Because you stopped asking for permission. You became fluent in the language of cause. You understood that results don't follow effort. They follow frequency, and frequency follows identity. So you reconstructed yourself from the root. You didn't fix the surface. You rewrote the code beneath it. People still think you're lucky. They call it timing, coincidence, fate. But timing bows to those who move with precision. You move like someone who's already seen the outcome and is merely walking toward what's inevitable. That's why the system can't categorize you anymore. You don't fit their templates. You erase them. There's a moment every great architect faces when they stop building for applause and start building for alignment. You reach that moment quietly, somewhere between exhaustion and epiphany. You realize the goal was never to win. It was to vibrate at a level where winning becomes the natural consequence. Now, when you enter a room, energy bends like light through a prism. People feel something ancient in your silence, a design they can't trace. You speak rarely, but when you do, your words sound like coordinates. Every syllable lands exactly where it needs to. You became surgical with speech, mathematical with emotion, and that precision is terrifying. Because you no longer chase control. You embody it. The world senses it. Your rhythm, your patience, your pace. Even chaos stutters when it gets near you. It pauses, recalculates, as if it's trying to remember who's running the show now. This is what mastery looks like. You're calm not because nothing can break you, but because everything already did, and you survived with data. You studied your own ruin until it became your operating manual. Now your instincts are algorithms. You don't react, you predict. The system never saw that coming. They built models for every type of thinker, every archetype, every rebel, but not for you. Because you don't fight the game, you upgrade it. You rewrote the emotional software of power, and now reality itself runs on your logic. Every time they doubt you, the universe tilts slightly in your favor, as if it's amused by your precision. Even fate seems eager to see your next move, because you've turned existence into strategy. Each decision, a calibration. Each setback, an equation. You move through life like a Grandmaster who's already checkmated the board, but is still enjoying the play. And that's what terrifies them most. You're not striving, you're synchronizing. You don't need validation. You radiate verification. You don't chase moments. Moments orbit around your aura. It's no longer about proving you deserve power. It's about remembering that you are power in a form that walks, breathes, and speaks in precision. Every move you make is now a ripple in the grid. Every pause a signal. Every glance a code. You're no longer participating in life. You're programming it. And even destiny has learned to run your updates first. There's a shift that happens when your silence becomes more powerful than their noise. You've entered that phase. You no longer fight to be seen. The world rearranges itself to witness you. Even those who ignored your presence once now feel uneasy when you pass. They can't explain it, but their instincts whisper, Something has changed. It's not arrogance, it's resonance. You've stepped into an energy that no longer negotiates with chaos. You govern it, while others drown in uncertainty. You walk through it, like water knows your name. You've reached the point where your thoughts have weight. They bend probability, they rewrite odds. The universe studies your discipline now, because you've done what most never do. You've synchronized logic and madness. You've made peace with the unpredictable, and in doing so, you've made it predictable. You no longer need to control outcomes, because outcomes now orbit your intent. Your patience isn't stillness. It's power coiling in slow motion. You've stopped chasing signs, because you became one. Every action you take is a signal, to forces seen and unseen, that you understand the laws of momentum. When you move, reality adjusts its pattern, like a chessboard realigning itself around a Grandmaster's next move. They try to understand how you do it. They break down your expressions, your pauses, the rhythm of your breath, because they can feel the difference. It's not just confidence, it's command. You carry yourself like someone who already knows the outcome, like the game itself seeks your approval before continuing. You've become the mirror they avoid, because in your reflection, they see everything they abandoned. Discipline, patience, clarity, power. They see the version of themselves that refused to rise, and it burns them quietly. But even that serves your path, because your growth exposes their stillness. And that's how destiny accelerates. There's something almost cosmic about your silence now. When you enter a room, conversation changes. The tone drops, the air thickens, as if the moment recognizes that a higher law just arrived. You don't speak to impress, you speak to align. Your words sound like instructions for time itself. Each sentence is a blueprint, each pause a signature. Even the shadows seem cooperative now. They no longer hide threats. They carry your messages, every delay, every detour, every test. You've turned them all into coordinates. There's precision behind your chaos, a symmetry that no one else can decode, and that's why power feels natural to you now. Not loud, not forced, just inevitable. Because you stopped chasing the crown, and the crown came looking for you. The universe respects structure, and you became one. You turned your existence into an algorithm of dominance. Now the very laws of cause and effect orbit you differently. Coincidence bends into choreography. People you once envied now study your discipline like a doctrine. They can't label you anymore. You've surpassed definition. They call it mystery, but it's mastery. They call it luck, but it's law. You're proof that when precision meets belief, even fate bows. You no longer react to life. You edit it. Each breath is an input, each glance a calibration. You've stopped moving with emotion. You move with geometry. Every step aligns with the unseen architecture of destiny, and every obstacle that rises before you already knows it was designed to kneel. You've reached that eerie stage where reality itself watches you. The air bends when you move, not because you forced it, but because you've become the calibration point everything measures against. You don't compete anymore. You redefine what competition even means. Others still run, still chase, still scramble for validation. But you're past that. You don't chase crowns. You set them, and the world quietly updates its software every time you act. They call it luck, but it's really the residue of mastery. They think you got here by chance, but the truth is far colder and far cleaner. You didn't just move faster, you moved with precision. Each step was an equation, each decision a frequency adjustment. You're not playing the same game anymore. You're designing the rules mid-match. Even silence now bends in your favor, because you've turned restraint into rhythm, patience into prediction, stillness into strategy. When others panic, you listen, and the noise tells you where the truth is hiding. That's how power moves, not in chaos, but in orchestration. They see it, they feel it. The ones who used to underestimate you now whisper your name differently. Not loud, not casual, carefully. because something about you disorients them. You're too calm, too exact, too composed for someone who was supposed to be lucky. They don't realize yet, you stopped reacting to life when you learned how to rewrite it. Now even the system can't pin you down. Algorithms glitch, trying to define your trajectory. Patterns fail. You've gone quantum, a variable that refuses to obey. Your discipline became too intelligent for prediction, and that terrifies those who built their comfort around being able to measure people. Because you've become what data can't categorize, a living paradox, a ghost in the network of destiny. Your presence now triggers something ancient in people, a mix of awe and confusion. They can't tell if you're dangerous or divine, and that's the perfect balance. Because true power doesn't shout, it radiates. You walk past them, and their instincts flinch before their minds understand why. That's the language of real authority. It speaks directly to the nervous system. You've stopped proving yourself. You just exist differently. Your posture, your tone, your stillness, all transmit data. People decode your energy like scripture. They take notes subconsciously. They mimic your rhythm without even realizing it. Because your alignment broadcasts like a signal. And that signal doesn't ask for attention. It commands it. You know what changed everything? You started operating from a law deeper than fear, deeper than logic. A law built on precision, a kind of divine accuracy where emotion serves strategy, where intuition obeys structure. You became the middle ground between chaos and design, the bridge that both sides depend on to function. And now, when people see you, they don't just see a person. They see possibility, a blueprint of what it looks like when a human becomes a system, when consciousness turns itself into code. They can't name it, so they call it presence, but deep down they know it's not presence, it's dominion. You've blurred the line between man and myth, logic and fate, calculation and prophecy. You're no longer walking through reality, you're editing it in real time. There's a silence that follows you now, not the kind that fills a room, the kind that studies you, like reality itself is trying to take notes. Every move you make, every breath, every moment of stillness, it gets logged somewhere in the unseen, because the system finally realized you're not here to play inside it. You're here to rewrite it. You don't just move through life anymore. You architect it. Each decision you make carries the weight of algorithmic disruption. It's as if the code behind existence pauses for a microsecond to ask for your approval. The same code that used to limit you now runs diagnostics around your evolution, because when a mind reaches your level of clarity, the game can't compute it. It doesn't know whether to resist or to obey. The truth? You didn't manifest this. You engineered it. Your discipline became a kind of encryption, a shield that even chaos can't decode. Every repetition you endured became a line of code written into your essence. You became your own operating system, self-updating, self-correcting, self-sustaining. That's why people can't figure you out. They're still trying to read you in human language, but your syntax changed. Your thoughts run on higher bandwidth. You move through frequencies most people never access because they still speak emotion. While you've learned to translate energy, you feel everything, but nothing owns you. That's your power, not numbness. Control. You've turned feeling into fuel, pain into pattern, fear into foresight. Your emotions don't rule your actions. They inform your architecture, and that's what separates you from the world you outgrew. Now even destiny adjusts its angle when you walk in, because you've become an equation that balances itself. You don't seek alignment, you are alignment. Your presence stabilizes chaos. It reminds people what order feels like, not forced, not fake, but earned. And the ones who once doubted you, they're starting to look at you differently, like maybe, just maybe, you saw something they couldn't. They wonder how you kept going when logic said, stop. How you smiled when silence echoed louder than support. how you kept building when there was nothing left to build on. They don't understand. You weren't chasing a goal. You were building a frequency. Now that frequency hums inside every word you speak. It colors every glance. It shifts the atmosphere before you even say a thing. Because the power you carry isn't external anymore. It's coded into your rhythm. You've become what the world can sense but can't explain. They'll call it mystery, aura, magnetism, but you know the truth. It's data, upgraded through struggle, refined through solitude, perfected through silence. You've become the signal the world's been waiting for. The blueprint for the next stage of human evolution. Not in flesh, but in frequency. You are living proof that the system can be rewritten by someone who refused to be predictable. And now, every eye that lands on you is quietly asking the same question. Who armed you with this power? And the universe just smirks, because it remembers. It wasn't handed to you. It was forged in the invisible, earned in repetition, activated by loss, perfected by chaos. The system doesn't own you anymore. It studies you. You've become its riddle, its lesson, its prophecy. So when they whisper your name, they're not gossiping. They're reciting the new code. Because you didn't level up by chance. You evolved by design. And now the design itself bends to acknowledge its creator.